You won't believe what I'm about to tell you. One day, I was a retired guy with a fishing boat and a lakeside cabin, living my best modest life. I didn't ask for trouble, but guess what? Trouble showed up anyway when someone built 66 luxury condos on my lakeside land. Now, when you've got a 20-year memory of water swallowing your land whole, and someone decides they want to put condos there, you stop seeing yourself as a homeowner and start feeling like a quiet witness to Mother Nature, to karma, to irony itself. That's the story of how I went from sipping coffee under my old oak tree to standing by while everything sank. But before I dive into all that, I've got to ask, if this were your place, what would you have done? Seriously, drop it in the comments. Now, ready? Let me tell you how all of this unfolded. For 2 decades, I lived what most people would describe as a quiet retirement dream. A little log cabin nestled right on the edge of Lake Crest View, surrounded by 2 acres of what I believed was paradise. I'd retired early from a long career as an insurance adjuster, and I had it all. Mornings spent fishing off my dock, afternoons reading under the shade of that century-old oak tree, and evenings listening to nothing but water lapping at the shore. Then it all got nuked, and it happened on a Tuesday morning in March of that year, when I heard heavy machinery down my road. At first, I chalked it up to some county project, maybe road work or a neighbor installing a septic system. But then I saw them. 3 pickups stacked with survey gear, a white Lexus that cost more than most people's houses, and enough construction kit to build a small town. That's when she appeared, Vivian Sterling. She stepped out of that luxury Lexus, looking like she'd warped straight from a boardroom into my rural paradise. Business suit that cost more than my monthly pension, leather portfolio fat enough to crush dreams, and a practiced smile that screamed trouble. "Good morning, Leo," she said, like we were old friends. "I'm chairwoman of the HOA, and I hope you received our letter about the exciting development project launching right here on your property." I nearly choked on my coffee. Development project on my land? I managed through disbelief. Before I knew it, surveyors were unloading their gear around my oak tree. I tried to stay calm, but my voice shook. "This is private property. You can't just do this." And that's when she did it, sweet as syrup, presented like a revelation. "Did you read your purchase contract from 2003? She asked. And of course, I hadn't. Who reads the fine print when it's longer than a Stephen King novel? But there it was, page 23, subsection 4.7. HOA retained rights to develop 60% of all waterfront lots. I stared at the highlighted clause, hoping it would make sense if I stared long enough. The irony. I spent 30 years reading fine print on other people's contracts and missed the one that mattered most. What about the law? I spluttered, but she just smiled, pulling out permits, assessments, every official document in triplicate. It was airtight. You signed it. It's been filed. They followed every procedure. My lawyer confirmed it. The city clerk confirmed it. 2 weeks later, heavy equipment was clearing land, 2 football fields worth, oak tree and all. I watched as they put that old beauty on a flatbed like it was firewood and felt something crack deep inside me. Then the harassment began. 3 days later, I got a violation notice on my door. My grass was supposedly too tall by half an inch. $50 fine. The next day, another citation because my fishing boat had exceeded a new 48-hour docking limit. By the end of the second week, I owed over $400 for rules that didn't exist when I went to bed the night before. I kicked a box of violation notices, and it toppled over, scattering paper everywhere, and also knocking down an old photo box. 20 years of memory spilled out, but one picture stopped me cold. The cabin from summer 1995, not beside the lake, but submerged in water. Trees looked like telephone poles sticking out of a brown sea. My dock vanished under 8 feet of muddy floodwater. The 1995 Great Flood. That's what I'd suppressed. That's why something felt so wrong about condos here. I was right. Lake Crest View had flooded bad. I called Vivian. Her voice stayed sweet, but cautious. "Trying to back out?" she asked. I told her I'd decided. Maybe fighting would just drive me insane. I wouldn't put up any more resistance. She sounded thrilled. But I had a plan. I walked over to the cruise next morning with coffee and played the helpful neighbor. Offered advice on layout, prices, features. She called me local expert. I told her buyers loved being as close to water as possible, basements for storage and cool summer parties, moving in before the heavy rain season. I left out why I knew that history, and she listened, overruling engineers who pushed for higher foundation elevation because she trusted me, the retired guy, over her own data. I watched from my porch, coffee in hand. 50 condos laid in the lowest elevation spots. Perfect. It got worse. She was building this development like it was her future political legacy. Invited the mayor, city council, media, hundreds of buyers to a white linen grand opening. She delivered a slick speech. Flood protected for 500-year storms. 30 years of weather data. State-of-the-art drainage. I decided the audience deserved to see the past. I brought the 1995 photos and handed the envelope to her in front of everyone. You should have seen the look. Murmurs. Questions. That was taken where we're standing. When was that? Were we supposed to know this? She recovered. That was ancient history, she said. Modern engineering prevents that. The crowd calmed. They believed her. I walked home, feeling like a relic. Had I done enough? Then I saw the alert, a tropical system developing in the Gulf, heading our way. Not just rain, but the kind of weather that doesn't play nice with history. The rain began as a drizzle, then a downpour. Her social media stayed optimistic. A little Texas rain never hurt. By dawn on day 2, foundations in the lowest units were seeping. By day 3, the water was rising around my porch steps. My cabin stayed dry, elevated by respect for the past. But around the lake, the new units were swimming. 21 ground floors flooded, 45 flooded deep by evening. The highlight? Her live stream from a second-floor unit. Temporary event, were covered with insurance, until water burst through the windows behind her. The building cracked. She panicked. Viewers watched as luxury furniture floated by. By now, it was not a dream. It was a disaster, exactly how environmental cycles, on human denial, always remind us. I felt hollow. Watching destruction didn't feel like victory. I knew I was right, but at what cost? Then came the investigation. They found digital files where she'd removed flood history sections from assessments, environmental reports, planning documents. Remove flood history, she'd instructed. She had diverted $400,000 from the HOA's Flood Preparedness Fund, money that was supposed to provide pumps and drainage systems, into her campaign and PR. It was fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, negligence. The HOA dissolved, the land declared permanent flood zone. My property contract nullified. She went to prison, barred from HOA leadership or public office. The site became a natural preserve, and me, the old insurance guy, became historian and advisor for planning agencies, learning that nature always wins in the long run. Even now, 6 months later, I sit on my porch, watching the sun set on the lake's quiet shoreline, and I wrestle with the guilt. Those families, I tried to warn them, but honestly, would you have listened to an old guy with one photo when you had flashy sales pitches, engineered protections, government sign-off? Could I have done more? Maybe next time I would. Maybe next time I'd find a way to save everyone, families, the land, and even Vivian from herself. But this time, I watched the lake remember what everyone else chose to forget. I didn't cause the flood, couldn't stop it. I just sat there, coffee in hand, and let the land tell its story. Maybe that makes me some kind of villain. Or maybe just someone who remembered. So, what would you have done in my place? Did I go too far by sitting back? Or not far enough by holding on to that truth quietly? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And hey, if this kind of HOA chaos gives your week some perspective, you know the drill. Sub for QA stories, and stay tuned for the next unbelievable saga. Thanks for listening. And remember, water doesn't forget. It only waits.